Hi everybody and welcome to today's Art of Procurement podcast. I'm Fredin, the founder and managing director of Art of Procurement. And as we all know, it's a really exciting time to be in procurement, especially with the pace of technological change. And so today's podcast is part of a special sponsored series that's taking part over the last 2 weeks of January 2020, where we aim to shine a light on the emerging and growth companies who are changing the way that leading procurement teams are driving outcomes that truly align with corporate objectives. And so we're going to ask an entrepreneur from 8 different companies questions about what gap in the market their solution addresses, how they differentiate their technology, and what the tools look like in action. It's a great way for you to get to know those who are truly leading the way when it comes to the digitization of procurement. And in today's podcast, I talked to Arvid Fredin and Nils Lundgren of Spendency. And so I first asked Nils to share Spendency's elevator pitch.
Yeah, Spendency is a really easy to use spend analysis system that gives the user all possibilities to work with their own data and be fact-based within their procurement organization. Easy to use for both not that advanced users, but also for people who are really deep into conducting their analysis. We think it's really important to let the user always be in full control of their own data and make fact-based decisions in the analysis and also sitting in the meeting with the internal stakeholders.
So you mentioned ease of use as being one of the core kind of tenets of Spendency. I wonder if you could just explain a little bit more about, one, why that's important, and two, how Spendency differentiates itself versus other solutions in the market around the idea of ease of use.
It's very easy to say you have a product that's easy to use, but it's very hard to quantify. It's something that you have to experience. So you can't score it on RFI. So it is a difficult sell, but what we found it's actually the most important sell. When we looked at how a typical procurement organization work with their analytics, they would typically have one person that's in charge of analysis, and they would have a system that is very, very advanced. So they would have a very technical, complicated system, and they would love it. But all the other people in the organization, they wouldn't know how to use it, even if they have full access, even if they received full training. You see the benefit of a very advanced system that's not easy to use become quite small. So what we have tried to do is make the system easy to use, but without limiting the advanced users. And I think there's 2 ways I can say that we've worked with, and one is we realized that the speed of the system is crucial to the user experience. If you push something needs to happen straight away. So we worked a lot with making the system faster. So we built our system on our own IP. We've developed it, and our programmers they say it's the Formula One of databases. So it's in memory, it's incredibly fast. So you don't have to wait. There's no delay there. That's one thing. And the other thing is, because we have a long background in procurement, we have really gone into the details of what questions are you trying to answer and when. So there's workflows that's not highlighted in the system somehow, but we have looked at, when you have a certain view, you're looking at the amount of suppliers. What are the top 10 questions you want to know from your suppliers? And then we built the system so it should be easy to get an answer to those questions specifically. So even a person that don't have a lot of background in analytics would go in and would feel natural. It would almost be like someone is nudging you in the direction of finding the answer to these questions. So we spend a lot of time on that. And then there's possibly a third thing as well, and that's like the look and feel of the system. That it should be very, I would say, Scandinavian design, but I'm not sure that's true, because I think there's less colors in Scandinavian design than we have. But it's a very clean design, and it's minimalistic, and it's sort of appealing to work with. I think those 3 things, having a very fast and responsive system, having workflows that even though not highlighted or mapped out in the system, is natural for a procurement professional, what questions they need to answer and when, and then having a clean system that just like everything is intuitive and easy and well defined, so you know where to click. I think these three things together is really what differentiates us.
For getting started, like how does a company get started then? You know, you talked about ease of use once Spendency is up and running and folks being able to kind of navigate, access their data, turn that data into insights and intelligence. Is it just as easy to get started? You know, how do you bring somebody into the platform?
Well, usually we let our presumptive clients test the system for like 2 weeks, and after that test, they usually understand that, well, during this time, we actually have implemented the system. It's really easy and to start it up. You just upload your files that you are currently working with in Excel or something like that. And then you could set rules for swiping through the whole system for each data point, or specific rules for each suppliers, driving them to one or several categories. And it's just drag and drop, and you can take care of a whole lot of suppliers in a big bunch. But the important thing is that you upload the data yourself. We often get questions from new clients, can't we make an integration? And yes, of course you can, but you don't have to make integration with your ERP system until you are certain that you really want to and need to save that time for yourself and involving IT or whoever is building that thing, which usually takes like up to 1 hour per ERP system.
Right.
But when you have the files, you want to test the system, just upload them and start working with it. It's really easy to do that.
And then, as you say, you can build the rules then that helps classify all that data, that cleans it, and then those rules are kind of remembered within the tool for the next time you do a data upload and are applied to the new data.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that also means that you can test the system and say, okay, for the test, I don't want to build the integration, I don't want to do all those things that requires a lot of work. I'm just going to upload the files. I'm going to play around with it. I'm going to set the rules. I'm going to try and set the different rules. And then all of a sudden, as Nils said, you realize, oh, I've actually done 50% of my analysis. If you then want to say, I want to continue with this, I want to add, the automated upload or integration. You have all those rules saved in the system. So you could just, then go back and say, let's connect the integration, and all the data that comes in would apply to the rules that you already set. So you can start small, and then if you want to invest more, so to speak, you can do that. So you don't have to do a huge investment up front. You can sort of take it in your own pace.
And the system is, of course, agnostic to different currencies, and you can work with several sources and things like that. So it's really just up to you. What kind of data would you like to analyze and bunch it together like you used to do before in Excel or in a system that you already have?
And so something else we talked about this actually off mic before we started recording, was kind of how passionate you are about democratizing access to advanced analytics, saying that putting a tool like Spendency into as many people's hands as possible so they can start to do interesting things with the data they have. I just wonder if you could talk a little bit to how that kind of reflects the commercial model and structure that you have for Spendency.
Yes, we really want to give everyone the possibility to work fact-based with their procurement activities. So we have several clients that are 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 persons within their organization that use the system. And we also have several clients who have 100+ users in their procurement department working with the exactly same system. We don't make any special development for different clients. We develop things that are commonly used for everyone and make the most benefits for as many as possible. And then we configure the system so it suits the purpose for each department. And conducting a spend analysis, the the methodology is quite the same if you are a small or a big organization. So we have a tool that everyone can use and get a huge benefit of using. And we set the price based on how many users you are, because to be honest, what drives our cost is actually the amount of data that you upload and the number of support issues we have. But that's also quite comparable to how many users you are. So for making it easy for the CPO to understand what's the cost for using this system, we stay at how many users you are, and then we take the hit if the data upload is too big.
We are very passionate about democratizing advanced analytics. And so one of the things that we realized quickly was that the existing analytics platform, they were suitable for very large organizations because they required at least one dedicated analyst to work with the system. So we figured that the key to really democratizing data is two things. One, make it easy enough that small organization can actually work with it, to not have dedicated analysts.
Yeah.
And two, have a price point that allows small organizations to purchase it. So we built the system completely cloud-based. It's not possible to get it on premise. It's AWS, and it's very scalable, the system. And then because we also made it so user-friendly, so easy to use, we don't need to invest a lot of time and energy into each implementation project. It pretty much runs itself. And the support issues are also surprisingly few. And that together those two things together means that we can have a competitive pricing on it.
So we should mention the price then, of course. Well, you get a lot. You get a lot for like $10,000 a year. That's a quite common organization. But if you ask us to answer an RFP, well, then we have to higher the price, because that drives too much time for us. Just test the system and see what you get.
We are very keen to get people to sign up and try our system, and be sincere about trying it, like they are considering it. Because when you have user friendliness or ease of use as your main USP, it's not going to stick out on any RFI.
Right.
So you need to experience that. So our solution is really excelling, not in sort of only seeing, but in doing, trying it yourself, seeing how easy it is, seeing how responsive, seeing how fast it is. And it actually makes a big difference.
So from a geographic perspective, I know that you're based in just outside of Stockholm in Sweden. From a client perspective, what are the markets that you're really supporting right now?
Yeah, we have actually been focused on launching the product in Sweden, where I would say that almost everyone is using Spendency at the moment. We have like plus 100 clients here, and word by mouth has taken us to some clients abroad the Nordics. But now we are really working on getting outside Nordics, facing Europe, facing the US, and we are really interested in those markets, and it's a big challenge for us to see what we can achieve addressing those markets the coming years.
And so if listeners would like to actually learn a little bit more about Spendency and sign up, get a demo, test it for themselves, where would be the best place for them to go?
To, of course, look at our website, www.spendency.com, or send us an email at contact@spendency.com.
So what I'll do is I'll include links to your website and to the email address in the show notes page for today's episode. That's going to be at artofprocurement.com/podcast. Just look for the startup series on the page, or you can just search for Spendency and you will find the show notes with those links. Arvid and Nils, I just want to thank you so much for sharing a little bit about Spendency with our audience today and for joining me on the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for tuning into this special startup series on the art of procurement. To listen to the entire series and for the show notes pages that accompany each episode, please go to artofprocurement.com/startup series.